Today's the day, Naruto stated gravely as he and Shikamaru went to the exam building to meet their teams and begin the cursed Chunin exams. Shikamaru grunted, rubbing his eyes annoyed. The beginning of the end. Naruto went on. Do you really have to monologue our impending doom? Shikamaru cast a sideways glance at the orange-clad Genin. I think it makes things more exciting. Naruto grinned cheekily and ducked a swing from Shikamaru's arm. Like we need any more excitement during this exam. Shikamaru snorted as the two came into view of the rest of their teammates. Understatement, time to show them a more serious side of Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said in a low voice before simply raising a hand at Sakura and Sasuke, who just huffed or h'd and looked away. About time. Ino commented at Shikamaru, who just rolled his eyes, and the group entered the building. Okay, we need to go to the third floor. Sakura said, looking up from the slip of paper Kakashi-sensei had given her. Before we go any further, Sakura-chan, I want you to know that I will never give up no matter what the task or question is. I will never walk away from it. I expect you to do the same. Naruto commented to the pink-haired Genin in a serious voice, and she blinked, taken back. Okay, I will remember that, Naruto. Sakura nodded, not having expected that from the blonde. Okay, let's go then. Naruto nodded and strode forward with his head and shoulders held high and sturdy. Shikamaru noted it was the same one he used when he led the troops on the front lines as Hokage. Shikamaru quickly fell into step with the blonde at his right, with the rest of the two teams following closely behind them. Naruto spotted Team Guy right away and waved cheerfully at Lee and Tintin, who waved back before moving on. Shikamaru smiled, glad they avoided the Sasuke versus Lee fight. Lee had worked hard on his taijutsu, and it was unfair that Sasuke could copy it the moment he saw it. The only reason he and Naruto knew it was because Lee and Guy taught them their type of taijutsu. The same was said for learning the Hyuga's clan style from Niji and Hinata. They spotted Team 8 yelling at a Chunin to let them pass, but Shikamaru, Naruto, and Sasuke saw through it simply. Shikamaru motioned to his team, and silently they walked past the crowd and up to the true third floor. Where are they going? Sakura hissed at Naruto. The real third floor. This is a genjutsu. Naruto whispered and quickly slapped his hand over Sasuke's mouth. Don't say a word. If they can't even see past a weak level genjutsu, then they shouldn't be competing. Naruto hissed and proceeded to drag the Uchiha up the stairs to the real third floor and smiled as Shino said something to his team, and Kiba huffed, but followed Shino's lead and silently left the crowd. My kawaii Genins, you made it here, and as a team no less. Kakashi said with an eye smile as he appeared in a puff of smoke as Team 7 arrived on the third floor. He bit back a smile at the sight of Naruto having his hand over Sasuke's mouth and dragging him. What do you mean by that, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked, confused. He means, Sakura-chan, that if we arrived not as a team, then we wouldn't be able to move on to the next part of the exam. Naruto fielded the question, and Kakashi nodded his head, signaling Naruto was correct. Good luck, my kawaii Genins. Kakashi gave another eye smile before he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Remember what I said, Sakura-chan, and keep in mind, I'm not completely useless. Naruto reminded Sakura as the trio entered the room, and Sasuke followed them, frowning and silently fuming. Naruto looked around the room to see ninjas already in there. He spotted Shikamaru's team seated and the Nara looking extremely bored, nothing new there. He saw Kabuto already playing the innocent Genin, handing out statistic cards to other Genins in the room. Naruto had to keep an animalistic growl held in at the sight of the Genin that might be why Shikamaru had his eyes closed. Naruto forced the rest of his team into seats and balanced his chin on his hand as he observed the room. Team 8 came in along with Team Guy and the Sand Sibs. Naruto made eye contact with Gaara, who nodded slightly at the blonde, and Naruto took this as a sign that Shikaku had talked to him. Well, that was one step in the right direction at least, and he also picked out the kunoichi that Orochimaru had taken the form of, and the way Orochimaru was eyeing Sasuke was only making his resolve stronger. After sending his team some glares that said to be quiet and not talk to anyone, Ibiki finally entered the room. Listen, brats. The first part of the Chunin exams will begin now. It is a written test and you have 2 hours. Ibiki shouted at the room full of genin with slight distaste as he walked around, handing out sheets of paper. If you get caught cheating, then you and your team will be expelled from the room and you are out of the exam. Ibiki stood at the front of the room after all the genins had their papers. Your 2 hours begin now. Naruto looked down at the paper and had to resist palming his face. These questions were easy. Like Academy easy, and had no real value in the real world, he would know after all. He went at it and finished it within an hour and then leaned back and observed the room. Shikamaru was leaning back in his chair, eyes closed to taking a nap, and he spotted Gaara using a sand eyeball to spy as Shino did the same thing with his insects, and throughout the 2 hours Ibiki would call out people he caught cheating, but the exact same people from the last time around. All right, brats, you have made it to the final question. This will determine your fate. You will either pass or fail from here on out. If even one of your teammates decided to leave, then your whole team will fail. You have 5 minutes to make your choice. Those who remain will face the final question. Ibiki explained. Silence fell over the room and slowly genins caved and raised their hands and left the exam room. Naruto pinned a shaking Sakura with a small glare, and she caught his eye and straightened her back determinedly. Finally the time passed and Ibiki glanced around the room, his face impassive. You brats passed the first part of the exam. Congrats, he said plainly. The room suddenly felt lighter and not as tense as before, just as the window smashed in as Anko flew in and a banner dropped down with her name written on it. Listen up, you maggots, the second part of the exams will overseen by me, the beautiful and sexy Anko Mitarashi. Anko smirked, hands on her hips. The second part of the exam will take place in Area 44, also known as the Forest of Death. Be there in 15 minutes. Anko smirked sadistically before disappearing in a puff of smoke alongside Ibiki. Naruto stood up from his seat and stretched his arms above his head. He took in the nervous gaits of the people around him as the genins made their way to Area 44. Naruto made sure to be in eyesight of Shikamaru as they gathered with the other genin by the fenced-in forest. He kept running over the events that happened in the forest and the plan they developed. It will be fine, brat. Your plan is solid, just don't overthink it, Kurama said in his own way of soothing the genin's nerves. Thanks, Kurama. Naruto breathed in a deep breath of air, calming himself. Listen up, maggots, I'm only saying this once. Each team is also given either a scroll of heaven or scroll of earth, and teams are required to possess both in order to pass. You have 5 days to get to the tower in the middle of the forest with both scrolls. Now sign these waivers stating that if you die in this exam, then it's not our fault. Once you are inside, there are no rules. Now head to your gate, and when you hear the whistle, then the exam has began. Anko explained, and everyone signed the waivers after some hesitation. I'll see you in there, Shika. Naruto muttered to the Nara, who nodded, and the two bumped fists before heading to their separate gates. Naruto was surprised at how silent the other two were being as the trio checked their equipment, and before they knew it, Anko blew the whistle and the gate swung open. Let's get that scroll and go to the tower as fast as we can. Naruto rotated his shoulders. Who put you in charge? Sakura growled as the group walked further into the forest. HN. Sasuke took a right, and when Sakura followed him, Naruto smirked and silently made a permanent Kagebunshin to travel with them while the real Naruto leapt high up into the trees. He traveled towards where he sensed Shikamaru's chirka was coming from. Moving silently through the trees, he kept an eye out for enemy ninja. He spotted Team 8, using Hinata's Byakugan to find the tower and Akamaru to find another team to fight. Naruto tensed as he leapt across the treetops, knowing that Shino's bugs and Akamaru could figure out when he was nearby. He let out a breath of relief as he ducked between some leaves when Shino's head tilted upwards, but didn't indicate that he noticed anything. Naruto perched on a tree branch and glanced down, seeing Shikamaru leaping towards him, his own permanent Kage Bunshin in his place with Ino and Choji. "Are you ready to seal Gaara?" Naruto signed using ANBU hand signs, and Shikamaru nodded. The two took off into the forest, Shikamaru following Naruto as the blonde was a sensory type and could pinpoint where Gaara was located in the forest. "Down there. Damn, his sand just destroyed that team." Naruto signed, wincing at the bloody scene below, and the duo dropped down to where the sand siblings were standing. Kankuro and Temari automatically dropped into their fighting stances, Temari's hand going to her giant iron fan and Kankuro flexing his fingers ready to use his puppets. "Whoa, we aren't here to fight." Naruto held his hands up in surrender. You're Naruto Uzumaki?" Kankuro didn't relax his stance as he eyed the two distrustfully. "Mother told me to expect you. I will hold back my sand for as long as I can." Gaara intoned, much to the surprise of his siblings. "I'm going to set up a barrier that will make you immobile, and Shikamaru here will use his clan's jutsu to help keep your sand back. Trust us, Gaara," Naruto explained truthfully. The red-haired Suna ninja tilted his head to the side for a moment before he nodded his assent. "Gaara, are you sure?" Temari asked, confused. "Mother assured me Naruto Uzumaki and Shikamaru Nara would not harm me," Gaara said emotionlessly. "All right, let's hurry then." Naruto fished out a seal and held it between his right index finger and middle finger. "Activate." The seal glowed QB red as Naruto slammed it on the ground, and a barrier engulfed the area around Gaara and Naruto. "All right, Kagenui, shadow stitching." Shikamaru made the right seal as he knelt on the ground, letting his shadow reached out and black tendrils lifted off the ground, wrapping themselves around the future Kazekage and his sand that was trying its hardest to react to the threat. "Hurry, NAR." Shikamaru gritted out, sweat trickling down the side of his head, his shadows working its hardest to restrain Gaara's sand that was slowly breaking free of the tendrils and the power of the barrier seal. "On it." Naruto pulled out another seal and dashed forward. He ducked under a stream of sand and made it to Gaara. With one hand, Naruto tore the clothing blocking Gaara's stomach, exposing the horribly created seal. "Fujin!" he shouted as he slammed the new seal onto Gaara's skin as Shikamaru's jutsu wavered more and another stream of sand sliced at Naruto's cheek, giving him a cut that matched the one he got from Anko from the last time they did the Chunin exams. Red and blue churka erupted from between the two and swirled like a maelstrom contained inside of the barrier, and Shikamaru dropped the jutsu and breathed heavily. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and shakily stood back up on his feet. "What's happening?" Temari shouted at Shikamaru with her fan out. "Naruto is fixing Gaara's seal. It was hurting him more than it was helping him. It was time bomb. It was made to fail," Shikamaru explained, hands up in surrender, knowing from experience that Temari plus her fan equals fatal injuries. "Explain now, Nara." Temari growled, and Shikamaru had to bite back a fond smile at the familiar threat. That seal was not made by a seal master, it was made as a last-minute attempt to seal a tailed beast. Tailed beasts are very powerful, and its power has been leaking out of the seal, influencing Gaara's behavior. It has been harming both of them more than helping them. That is why Gaara has such large bags under his eyes from lack of sleep, and that is why he is so bloodthirsty. With this new seal, Gaara will change for the better and be able to sleep without worrying. His attitude towards people and life in general will improve. Shikamaru gave the two a long-winded explanation as the churka within the barrier died down. "Shikamaru is right, don't worry about Gaara, he can sleep easy now. Just do your best to be older siblings to him, he's going to need you." Naruto spoke to the two Sand siblings as he brought down the barrier with a sleeping Gaara on his back piggyback style, and he had bruises and scrapes visible on his skin. We promise. If what you said is true then. Kankuro took his little brother from Naruto and the group smiled at each other. Here. Think these might come in handy. Temari pulled a couple of scrolls out of her pack. The group we ran into before had a couple on them. Oh, I'll take that one. Naruto gladly accepted the Earth Scroll while Shikamaru took the Heaven Scroll with a smile at Temari, who blushed slightly and looked away annoyed. Thanks, we'll see you guys at the tower. Naruto beamed before the two looked at each other before they disappeared in swirls of leaves. Those two are odd, but it's like they are familiar too for some reason. Temari wondered aloud to her brother as the group headed towards the tower. Yeah, but I think you just like the one with the pineapple hairstyle. Kankuro teased and Temari whacked him over the head with red cheeks. / Pass me the Earth Scroll. Shikamaru called over to Naruto. The Hokage tossed it over to the Nara without question. The Genin sealed the two scrolls into another scroll that he put back in his pack. If our plan works, then we will need these later. It's a good thing they had extra scrolls, huh? Naruto nodded his head. Orochimaru should be attacking my team soon. We better get there before he uses his futon jutsu. Hang on to me, Shika. Shikamaru stretched his hand out and Shikamaru gripped the offered hand trustingly. Naruto sensed for his team's chirka and growled when he felt Orochimaru's chirka nearing them. Naruto quickly shushined them to his team's location and landed on a tree branch above their heads where they were making a password. Anytime now. Naruto muttered to Shikamaru, who nodded and tensed up. Sure enough, moments later Orochimaru sent out a full-scale futon, Detapa, wind style, great breakthrough. What now? Sasuke cried out against the wind as it scattered the trio apart. Once Naruto's Kagebunshin was out of sight, the real Naruto released it and Shikamaru watched as the real Naruto dropped down to where Sasuke and Sakura were talking. Shikamaru observed Orochimaru, in Naruto's form, growl and back off. The Nara disappeared in a swirl of leaves and appeared next to his team, and he had his Kagebunshin walk into the bushes to go to the bathroom and quickly released it before he took its place. Listen up, something has happened. You two need to meet up with Sasuke, Sakura, and then combine scrolls. You need to tell the Jounin stationed at the tower that a snake has entered the exams. Shikamaru used his ANBU commander tone and watched as the two stood at attention, taking in his words. Hi. The two agreed, albeit confused however. What are you going to do, Shikamaru? Choji asked, worried for his friend. I'm going to help Naruto do some snake hunting. Now hurry. Shikamaru threw his hand to the side. We will catch up with you two at the tower as soon as we can. Don't worry, we'll be fine. Okay, stay safe. Ino nodded her head. She had a look of distaste on her face at the fact they had to leave Shikamaru behind. Come on, Choji, we need to move. Hi. Choji gave Shikamaru one last worried look before the two took off towards the tower. / Listen up, you two need to get out of here right now. Someone who can do that jutsu at that strength is higher than Genin level. Naruto told the other two, using his Hokage voice, and the two straightened subconsciously. What about you? Sakura asked, fingering her pack where the Heaven Scroll was located. I'll stay back and buy you two time. Naruto lied easily. He was planning on fighting Orochimaru. Sasuke looked outraged at being told what to do by the blonde, and Sakura was unsure about Naruto's plan. I'll be able to distract the ninja with my Kagebunshins. I need you two to tell the Jounins at the tower that a snake has entered the exam. He said sternly. A snake? Sakura looked confused. We don't have time for this, leave now. Find Ino and Choji, they have an Earth Scroll, go to the tower together and warn them. Naruto ordered. I can fight. Sasuke said stubbornly. Katan Jetsus are going to be no use in this battle. Leave now. Naruto almost shouted at the Uchiha, gritting his teeth. Fine. Sasuke ground his teeth and took off into the trees with Sakura hot on his heels. Shikamaru dropped down next to the blonde and gave a stiff nod signaling that his team had been informed of what was happening. My, what do we have here? A Nara and the Kyuubi container, it must be my lucky day. Orochimaru called from a tree branch above the two still wearing the female grass ninja's body. It would be our luck to get a cross-dressing snake. Naruto sighed dramatically as he stretched his arms. Do you have to badmouth a Sannin? Shikamaru gave the blonde a sideways glance. So you know who I am then. Orochimaru laughed and Naruto wiggled his pinky finger in his ear. Orochimaru, the snake team. By the way, toads are so much better. Naruto smirked. Orochimaru's eye twitched at the words. Stupid blonde must be a student of Jiraiya. He would take pleasure in killing him and throwing the dead form of the blonde at the feet of his old teammate and sensei while taking control of the Kyuubi. Can we stop with all the trash talking now? I'd rather get this over with. Shikamaru sighed annoyed. As you wish, Narakuen. The snake flicked out his tongue and Shikamaru shuddered. The snake Sannin made a few hand signs and a massive snake summon rose up with Orochimaru standing on its head. This is going to be fun, Naruto said with a grin. Raitun, John, lightning style, false darkness. Shikamaru made the snake seal and the clouds above the treetops darkened and Shikamaru grinned as around 10 lightning spears struck down towards Orochimaru and his snake. Orochimaru, to avoid being speared, leapt off the head and frowned in dismay as the lightning destroyed the snake completely. Futon, Kaze no Yaiba, wind style, blades of wind. Naruto shouted as he slashed out at Orochimaru with his index and middle fingers. He had made Kage Bunshins do the same jutsu and they spun around Orochimaru, slashing out violently at the ninja. Naruto landed on the ground beside Shikamaru and the Kage Bunshins situated themselves around the two in a protective circle. That was too easy, Naruto said calmly as he looked at the destroyed body of the grass ninja. You're right, Kyuubi-kun, what you destroyed was just a body I was possessing. Orochimaru's voice came from higher up and the two glanced up to see him standing in his original form. I still think he is a cross-dressing snake. Naruto grumbled and the preteen next to him stifled a giggle. You hurt me with your words, Orochimaru said with fake hurt in his voice. Naruto nodded and the Kage Bunshins leapt up at Orochimaru. He just cackled and fought them off. Fujin Chaka no Jutsu, Dust Cloud Ignition Technique. Naruto and Shikamaru called out together. Shikamaru supplied the stream of fire towards Orochimaru and Naruto added his wind, increasing the size and power as it engulfed Orochimaru, who had just finished off the last of Naruto's Kage Bunshins. The two watched as the firestorm slowly died out and Orochimaru stood there, smoldering, but still intact. Shikamaru's eyes darted around the clearing. Something was off and all his senses were going crazy. He spotted a glint out of the corner of his eye and he moved as quickly as he could. Shikamaru jumped behind Naruto and let out a scream of pain as he collapsed to the ground, curling up on his right side. A sword was sticking out of his left shoulder, one that was far too familiar. The sword Orochimaru had flung at Naruto's unguarded back was Kusanagi. Shikamaru! Naruto shouted as he spun around to see the Nara on the ground, hands clutching at the sword that was protruding from his shoulder. NNAR. Shikamaru tried to get out, but he had to grit his teeth in pain, eyes shut as he tried to control the pain that was racking his body. You're going to regret that, Naruto said darkly as he rose up from where he was kneeling beside the fallen Nara. Let's get this snake, he is going to burn for all he's done. Kurama growled and Naruto couldn't agree more, so he let Kurama's chakra flow through his veins. He glanced up. His eyes were red and slitted as he opened his mouth baring his fangs, while his whiskers darkened and his nails grew into fox claws. Orange churkas surrounded around him and his hair stuck up like they did when he was fighting in the war. He decided to only show one of his original stages of his fusion with Kurama. He couldn't let Orochimaru know how well the two could work together, so he only let two tails appear. Now things are getting interesting. Perhaps I should injure your little boyfriend more severely. Orochimaru smirked sadistically. Touch him and I'll rip you to shreds. Naruto growled like an enraged fox. Kurama's own angry voice was infused in Naruto's tone. Oh, I do so hope you can back those threats up, little fox. Orochimaru mocked, and suddenly Naruto disappeared in a flash of orange thanks to his churka and reappeared behind the Sannin. Orochimaru had no time to react before he was pummeled with powerful churka-infused taijutsu on par with Tsunade. The blonde was switching the type of churka he put into each blow. It ranged from Kurama's churka to Raitun to Suitun. Each hit more powerful than the last, and Orochimaru could barely defend himself against any of the attacks. The blonde was in a rage at the fact his brother had a sword sticking out of his shoulder on the ground behind him. With one well-aimed futon jutsu and a slash from his clawed fingers from Naruto, Orochimaru howled as his right arm dropped to the ground. You're more powerful than I first expect, Kyubi-kun, but if you're so busy fighting me, who is going to protect your little boyfriend? Orochimaru smirked and Naruto whirled around to see a barrage of medical scalpels flying towards the curled-up form of Shikamaru. Shikamaru! Naruto shouted and leapt away from Orochimaru and blocked the attack from Kabuto most likely. Pain flared up on his thigh and Naruto looked down to see yet another sword. This one was sticking out of him this time. Naruto frowned. It was Ryujin no Ken, sword of the Thunder God. How did the snake get it? He had to fight Aoi Rokusho to get it back. Well, at least getting his katana would be easier this time around. Naruto pulled the sword out of his thigh and adjusted his grip on the hilt, dropping into his kenjutsu stance. Meanwhile, Shikamaru had regained some color and was sitting up slowly. Hands gripping the hilt of Kusanagi, the Nara took a deep breath and quickly pulled it out of his shoulder, slamming his lips shut to stop any sounds from escaping. Shikamaru adjusted his grip and flew into motion, Naruto knowing what Shikamaru was thinking and rushed at Orochimaru with Ryujin to distract the snake Sannin. Shikamaru's shoulder was throbbing with immense pain, but his focus was now completely on Kabuto and killing that bastard once and for all. He spotted the silver-haired Genin pulling out another fistful of medical scalpels, and they glowed with green churka. Shikamaru lashed out at the scalpels, sending them out of his path, and with a cry of rage Shikamaru fed his churka into the blade and stabbed at Kabuto, the blade crackling with Raitun and heating up with Keton. Shikamaru's face was spattered with blood as Kabuto yelled in pain as his right leg from his knee down fell to the ground below. Shikamaru clung to the side of the tree with his churka as Kabuto moved his hands down to his injured leg from his spot sitting on the tree branch. I don't think so. Shikamaru growled and flew into movement once again. He aimed and more blood hit his face as stood over the injured Kabuto with a deadly smile, one that was promised death. Kabuto was now lacking hands to preform his precious medical ninjutsu. They were severed cleanly at the wrists on both arms. You have no idea how long I've waited for this, Shikamaru stated, and he adjusted his stance with the katana. With a grim face he only had war during the war. Shikamaru slashed and ended Kabuto's life via beheading. Keton, Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu. Shikamaru made the hand signs and watched much too satisfied as Kabuto's corpse, including the hands and leg on the forest floor, turned to nothing but ash, and even that ash was scattered in the wind coming from the battle below. He quickly made sure to turn his jutsu on Orochimaru's arm as well, leaving no trace of it either. Your medical nin is dead, Shikamaru informed Orochimaru as he dropped down next to Naruto, who was back to his usual form, Ryujin crackling with Naruto's own Raitun churka. I will end you, Naruto. Orochimaru hissed angrily and clicked his tongue, and Shikamaru let out a surprised cry as Kusanagi turned into a giant snake that latched onto Shikamaru's wrist, sinking its fangs deep into his skin. Shikamaru let out a pain scream as he tore the snake off of his wrist, and it scurried back to Orochimaru. I would hurry and get that wound treated. The poison will kill you soon, Naruto. Orochimaru smirked as Naruto growled and dropped into a defensive position in front of Shikamaru, who was clutching his wrist, falling to his knees in pain. Until next we meet, Orochimaru promised, and he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Damn it, Naruto growled before he turned to look at Shikamaru. Think you can hang on long enough for me to get to the tower? I'll deal, Hokage-sama. Shikamaru gasped out, and the blonde Genin carefully picked Shikamaru up bridal style, causing the Nara to stiffen. Just hang on, Shika, just hang on, Naruto muttered and quickly shushined to the tower. Naruto appeared in the lobby. He rummaged around in Shikamaru's pack and unsealed the two scrolls and opened them together, Shikamaru leaning on his side for support. The scrolls let out a puff of smoke, and Irika appeared, ready to give Naruto his congratulations, but froze when he spotted both Shikamaru and Naruto bloody and leaning on each other for support. Irika-sensei, Naruto gasped out, breathing heavily. Shikamaru has been poisoned. He needs help right now. My God, hold on, you two. Irika flew into sensei mode as he grabbed both of the Genins and shushined right to the infirmary. He's been poisoned, he needs help now, Irika shouted, and the two Genins were surrounded by medical ninjas. You have to step aside, a medical ninja told Naruto sternly as the medical ninjas started to remove the poison from the snakebite and cut the mesh shirt away from Shikamaru's stab wound. Thankfully they didn't cut any lower, or they would see his ANBU tattoo and the rest of his scars. No, Naruto growled at the ninja that was trying to remove him from Shikamaru's side. He's in good hands, Naruto. Kakashi placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder as he and Asuma arrived in the infirmary. Asuma shifting his weight back and forth as his eyes stayed trained on his now unconscious student who was being tended to on a bed, worry evident in his eyes. I don't care, I am not leaving him. If anyone tries to make me leave him, then I will take action. Naruto glared fiercely at his sensei that blinked in shock at the words and the glare. The words and tone of voice reminded the silver-haired Jounin of his time in the ANBU. That was how a captain talked when one of their own was injured. Okay, Naruto-chan, how about we put you in the bed right beside Shikamaru-kun then? You need to get that wound on your thigh checked out. Is that a sword? Kakashi suggested and started in shock at Ryujin that Naruto had slung at his waist. That's fine. Huh, yeah it is, isn't it? Naruto laughed nervously and placed the sword on a table before he hopped up onto the bedside Shikamaru's and silently let the medical ninja attend to his injury and fed him a churka pill to replenish his churka. Naruto kept his eyes trained on Shikamaru the whole time, feeling worry bubbling up in his chest. He'll be all right, we got to the poison in time. The lead medical nin that was working on the Nara informed the gathered Jounins and the one Genin. Thank God. Naruto sighed in relief, leaning back against the pillow behind him, now feeling at peace. Naruto-kun, the Sandaime called out as he flew into the infirmary with Irika, Guy, and Kurenai at his heels. Gigi. Naruto raised his hand at the current Hokage. It's always you, isn't it, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen rubbed the bridge of his nose. Is that Ryujin? I don't know, to me it's just a sword. Did you get our message? Naruto asked after snickering at the Hokage. A snake has entered the exam? Very clever, Hiruzen admitted. Did you send anyone out to find him? Naruto asked. Yes, we did, but we can find no trace of him, Hiruzen said, annoyance lacing his tone. Naruto huffed. How the Jounins that had been sent didn't notice their battle he will never know. Perhaps there were more spies for the snake than he first thought, or maybe they had been root members in disguise and he knew Danzo had worked with the snake Sannin in the past. Are our teammates okay? Naruto asked. They arrived here 10 minutes before you two did. They are uninjured, just rather worried about you two. Irika assured the blonde, feeling better than he did when Naruto had first come in with Shikamaru, both covered in blood and the Nara dying. Naruto snorted at the idea of his team being worried for him. Ino and Choji he could see, but not so much Sasuke and Sakura. If you feel up to it, Naruto-kun, we need to know what happened. Hiruzen said in a soft tone. I'll tell you when Shikamaru wakes up. Naruto crossed his arms stubbornly. Not a second before. It would be better if you told us what happened while it was fresh in your mind. Hiruzen said in a placating tone, and Naruto just frowned. I am not going to say anything until Shikamaru wakes up. Naruto repeated forcefully. All right then, try to get some rest, Naruto-kun. We will wake you up when Shikamaru awakens. Hiruzen agreed, recognizing that stubborn look on Naruto's face. It was a mixture of Minato and Kushina's, and those two were stubborn enough on their own. Naruto just smiled innocently at the group before he gave Shikamaru's still form one last glance, seeing Asuma sitting in a chair beside the Nara already. Naruto smiled softly at the sight before he closed his eyes to try to sleep. As he faded into blissed unconsciousness, he felt a hand gently pat his head, and if he had to guess, he would think it was Kakashi or Irika-sensei. Are you just going to keep sleeping? Shikamaru was currently poking Naruto's whiskered cheek. He had woken up a few moments ago, and Asuma had gone to go get his father and the other Jounins, leaving the two alone in the infirmary. I'm up. Naruto blearily opened his eyes. You okay? I've been better, but I've also been worse, so I'm somewhere in the middle, I think. Shikamaru gently touched his injured shoulder. This is going to make my fight against Kin so much more troublesome. I think the whole thing went rather well. So what part should we omit? Naruto asked as he swung his legs over the side of the bed and locked eyes with the Nara. We omit the part about you using Kurama's churka, me finally killing Kabuto, and you slicing off Orochimaru's arm. Shikamaru said, and Naruto nodded his head in agreement. How did it feel to get rid of that bastard once and for all? Naruto asked. Amazing. I hate killing, but he deserved it. Without him at the snake's side, we can at least hope the reanimations of our allies and enemies never will happen. Shikamaru stated. If we do need the power of the Hokages, then I know the jutsu. The two fell silent as the doors swung open as the Sandaime, their senseis, and a few other familiar elite Jounins entered. How are you two feeling today? Sandaime asked kindly. Stiff. Shikamaru said as he gingerly rotating his injured wrist. Tired. Naruto rubbed his eyes and Shikamaru just snorted. Like a true Nara. Shikamaru teased and Naruto stuck his tongue out at him. So you and Shikamaru-kun are close, Naruto-chan? Kakashi asked innocently. He lives at my house now, so I'm going to say yes. Shikamaru answered as Naruto rubbed his head while chuckling. I wasn't aware of this. Sandaime took the time to really look at Naruto, and guilt stabbed at him when he saw that the Genin had grown taller and was filling out to a healthy size. All because he was in a loving household where they made sure he was well rested and fed, and a few weeks the Naras did what he couldn't for 12 years. Are we going to talk about what happened now, or can I go back to sleep? Naruto asked curiously. I don't really want to talk, but I did say we would when Shikamaru woke up, and I never go back on my word. Let's start on how you knew that Orochimaru was in the forest of death. Sandaime said as the group settled down in chairs. Naruto moved over on his bed and Shikamaru silently slid into the empty space, their shoulders and thighs touching. Naruto gently curled his hand around Shikamaru's injured wrist, very subtly sending his churka into the Nara to help the healing process alongside his own stabbed wound that was already closing up. The two noticed the looks they were getting from the others, but they couldn't care less. The two brothers needed to be in contact with each other to prove to themselves that they are both alive and breathing. Team 7 was attacked by a high-power futon, Detapa, wind style, great breakthrough that no Genin in this exam should be able to produce. That was the first tip-off. The second one was when I was separated from the other two. A giant snake tried to swallow me. After killing it, causing it to disappear, it made sense it was a summons. The only two snake summoners are Anko-san and Orochimaru, the snake Sannin. Anko-san was one of our proctors and would never attack us, so Orochimaru was the only logical choice. I created a Kage Bunshin to inform Shikamaru before I went back to Team 7. I told them to meet up with Team 10 and to tell you all that Orochimaru was in the forest. Naruto explained. It sounded very plausible and the Jounins were nodding. This lined up with what the Genins had told them. The use of Team 7 instead of my team didn't go unnoticed by the Jounins and Hokage. Kakashi wasn't too surprised by the wording, as he had seen how the blonde was treated by his teammates. Why did you send a Kage Bunshin to get Shikamaru? Why didn't you flee with your team? Sandaime asked, wondering why Naruto chose to stay behind and fight if he knew a Genin couldn't produce that power in the jutsu. We couldn't take the chance that Team 7 would be ambushed. I sent a message to Shikamaru because we know how to work together and I know for a fact he will always have my back, and he proved that. Naruto said truthfully, his voice flat. Why do you think Orochimaru was going to ambush your team? Sandaime questioned. It's obvious, isn't it? Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. He must have a source in the village, because the only reason he would invade the exams and attack Team 7 out of all the teams there is because of Sasuke's eyes. If he wanted to make a political impact, he would have went for the team from Suna that held all three children of the Yondaime Kazekage. He makes a good point. Kurenai muttered as the Hokage paled at the theory the Nara gave. What happened when you got there, Shikamaru? Asuma asked his student, worry evident in his tone as he eyed the bandages the Nara was sporting. I arrived in time to see a kunoichi from the hidden grass village appear. She knew who we were and she summoned a giant snake, and we deduced that this was actually Orochimaru. I destroyed the summon with a Raitun Jutsu while Naruto used his Kage Bunshins to attack Orochimaru himself, but in the end he left the kunoichi's body. She had been dead for a while. Shikamaru picked up the story, and he could see he and Naruto had their audience on the edge of their seats. Now Shikamaru did something brave and stupid. Naruto gave Shikamaru a sideways glare. I would do it again, and you know it, Shikamaru said in a steely tone. Something was off with the version of Orochimaru that Naruto was fighting, and I spotted something flying at Naruto's back. I jumped in the way and got a sword through my shoulder for my troubles. Shikamaru gently touched his injured shoulder, feeling Naruto's chakra making its way up to it to help heal it. Shikamaru. Asuma breathed out. He really needed a cigarette. I got really mad and attacked Orochimaru, Naruto admitted, sending more chakra into Shikamaru's body to help him heal. Oh, Naruto. Hiruzen rubbed his nose at the blonde, who didn't the least bit concerned about the fact he took on a Sannin. Meanwhile, he had a Bunshin in hiding and used that to launch a sneak attack on Shikamaru. I deflected the weapons, and that's when Orochimaru stabbed my thigh with that katana. Naruto gestured to Ryujin that was still sitting on a nearby table, earning some wide-eyed looks of utter surprise at the sight of the long-lost katana. Shikamaru managed to pull the other sword out of his shoulder, but we guess Orochimaru knew he couldn't afford to stay any longer in case reinforcements arrived. He needed a distraction, so as he turned the sword Shikamaru was holding into a snake, making it bite Shikamaru's wrist. He fled, knowing that we had to get to the tower to remove the poison and therefore couldn't follow him. Naruto finished the story and leaned back against the pillows, talked out. Shikamaru was nodding every so often to show Naruto was telling the truth, well, a very plausible version of it anyways. It is very impressive that two Genins were able to take on a Sannin and survive. Genma commented from around the sunbon he was gnawing on. Thanks. Naruto shrugged his shoulders carefully as not to jostle Shikamaru too much. How did you two know it was Orochimaru in the first place? The Sandaime asked curiously. There are only two known snake summoners, Orochimaru one of the Sanins and Anko. It was doubtful that she would attack Genins from her own village, so the only logical conclusion was that it was Orochimaru, and it was the correct conclusion. Shikamaru shrugged his shoulder, letting them deduce the rest for themselves. Naruto-kun. When you said you got mad, was it like the time with Haku? Kakashi asked the one question that the two Genin knew they all wanted to know the answer to. Tap into the Kyuubi's power? I'm not sure, but I think it was just plain old anger, all from one Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto jerked a thumb to his chest and had to hold back a laugh at the looks he was getting as he just blurted out his secret in front of Shikamaru. Naruto, you can't just go around saying that S-class secret. Hiruzen scolded. I am Anara. I figured out about the Kyuubi back in the academy. It wasn't that hard to find out. The secret isn't so much of a secret if you use your brain. The fact that the villagers know and take their anger out on him and what day his birthday was on made figuring out the secret much easier. Shikamaru said emotionlessly, but Naruto could see the anger flaring up in his brother's eyes. The Hokage sat back, stung by the Nara's words, but he knew that the Genin was right. His mind was processing everything that the two had told him. If he was going by the performances reviews he had read, these two should have died during the fight with Orochimaru. You two. There is something you aren't telling us. The Sandaime said after processing the words from the two Genin. We're not dead last. Naruto offered. More like silent prodigies. Shikamaru suggested. More like lazy prodigies. Naruto teased the boy next to him. Same difference really. Shikamaru waved his uninjured hand dismissively. Whatever you say. So Gigi, what should I do with that katana? Naruto turned back to the assembled group who were all looking at them like they were seeing the two for the first time. Keep it, Naruto. It's only fitting that you are the one to wield it next after all. Its name is Ryujin no Ken, Sword of the Thunder God. Sandaime said wearily. Okay Gigi, Kakashi-sensei, how many days do we have left until the 5 days deadline is finished? Naruto asked, honestly wondering. 3 days are left. Kakashi answered his student's question. Awesome, I can't wait to eat something. Do you think they have ramen here? Naruto turned to Shikamaru excited. If they do, it will only be instant. Shikamaru guessed, and the blonde shuddered at the mere thought of it. Never mind then. He pouted and Shikamaru rolled his eyes fondly at the blonde. So are we done here? Naruto turned his blue eyes to the others in the room, his voice unconsciously going into his Kage voice. Shikamaru is exhausted and needs his rest. Shikamaru made a noise of protest, but his eyes were drooping and his eyelids felt like lead. We have what we need, sleep well you two, and we will send some food up soon. Thank you for what you did in the forest, we will take it from here. Sandaime stood up and inclined his head towards the two who nodded back out of respect for the old man, but both of them knew that wasn't the case. They knew what was coming and how to counter it while the Sandaime had no clue. The Hokage's Jounin guard escorted out Hiruzen while Guy and Kurenai went to tell Team 7 and Team 10 that Naruto and Shikamaru were fine, leaving Kakashi and Asuma to stay back. How are you two doing? Really? Asuma asked, gently prodding at the two Genins. We're fine, Asuma-sensei. Shikamaru said, resting his head on Naruto's shoulder, comfortable. It was intense, but nothing we couldn't handle. Naruto said seriously, staring Kakashi down. It was only a half lie, the war had been intense, the fight with Orochimaru was just annoying until the moment Shikamaru got hurt, that is when it turned personal for Naruto and Kurama. You two are planning on giving us more heart attacks in the future, aren't you? Kakashi sighed. There's a high chance. Naruto nodded sagely. We just have decided to stop hiding our true skills. Even if they had to change their appearances to show their skills, they would be shown. I'll put him back in his bed. Asuma gestured to the now sleeping Nara. Naruto steadied Asuma for a moment before nodding his consent and released his hold on the Nara's wrist. Asuma slid his arms under the backs of Shikamaru's knees and his other arm around the small of Shikamaru's back. He frowned a bit at how light the 12-year-old was before he gently placed him back in the bed beside Naruto and tucked him in, making sure his shoulder and wrist were comfortable. Naruto smiled at the sight of Asuma placing his hand on Shikamaru's forehead, looking like a worried parent. We'll let you two get some sleep and check on that food. Kakashi patted Naruto on the head, hand lingering there for a bit. Thanks, Sensei. Naruto beamed at the idea of food. Kakashi gave an eye smile and the two jounins left the infirmary. Silence descended on the room. Naruto's eyes darted around the room and smirked a bit when he spotted a stream of sand making its way through the small crack between the ground and the door. The coast is clear, Gaara, if you want to come in and talk. Naruto commented aloud. Shikamaru shifted slightly in his sleep, but settled down, not sensing any danger. The door slid open and Gaara walked in, the sand returning to his huge gourd. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, you have about 3 minutes to tell me why I'm in my Genin body and not lying dead on a battlefield. I don't care if you are injured, I will strangle you with my sand if I don't get a good answer. Gaara growled as he stomped into the room. I thought they might happen. Well, Gaara, welcome to the past. Naruto spread his arms to the side. Explain. Now. Gaara stopped at the end of Naruto's bed, his teal eyes flicking to the unconscious form of Shikamaru. Any pressing questions you want to get off your chest before I start? It's kind of a long story. Naruto suggested. What happened at the end of the war? Gaara asked, needing to know this answer. Naruto stayed silent while he quickly placed up a privacy barrier around the trio. We won. Shikamaru and I were the only ones left alive on the battlefield, but we were both dying from our wounds and chakra depletion. Shikamaru survived because he was the brains behind our plans and the main ANBU commander. Everyone did their best to protect him until the end. Naruto said quietly, his eyes far away. Gaara bowed his head and then Naruto launched into his tale of how they came to be in the past, what they had done so far, what they had planned out, and what happened in the forest with Orochimaru. He also gave Gaara his theory of how once his seal was altered with Naruto's own time-fluxing chakra and the fact the tailed beasts know of the different timeline, it would make sense that when the two come in contact it would give the hosts their memories back. You two have set up solid groundwork for the future. Gaara nodded his consent from his Kazekage mindset. We can work in you and your siblings into the plan for the invasion. We still need Baki to be overhead talking about the invasion, but in the original timeline Baki was talking with Kabuto. Thanks to Shikamaru, that is no longer an option, however for the long run it was well worth it. Naruto glanced over at the slumbering Nara with a proud smile on his face. I'm glad that bastard is finally gone. Gaara smirked. I can order Baki to be seen talking to a sound ninja instead, and I will make sure the other Suna ninjas know that we will not be taking part in the invasion with Oto. Instead we are to help the Leaf. You're not Kazekage right now, Gaara. Naruto said slowly. So you're not Hokage either, but you still get people to listen to you. Besides, the Suna ninjas other than my siblings don't know that I've lost my bloodthirsty nature and they are terrified of me still. Gaara reminded the blonde, who nodded, taking this into the equation as his stomach growled. I should leave, you need to eat something and I've got about 12 years of sleep to catch up on. Again. Gaara commented as he stood up from his place at the end of Naruto's bed. I'm glad that Kurama brought you and Shikamaru back. He gave me another chance to live and my siblings back. Gaara gave a soft smile before he left the room, giving Naruto just enough time to bring down the barrier before a medical ninja came in with 2 trays of food. She nodded her head at Naruto as she placed down the trays. She checked Shikamaru's wounds gently, having Naruto's eyes following her every movement just in case before she left. Naruto dug into his food, only now realizing how hungry he was and how much he really needed to have solid food in his stomach. He polished off his own food and noticed that Shikamaru was still fast asleep. As much as the Nara needed sleep, he needed food as well. Naruto slid out of his bed and started to poke Shikamaru's cheek. "Wake up, Shika, wake up and eat the food," he sang as he started to poke both cheeks and watched amused as Shikamaru's face twitched. "Food, Shika-chan, you force food on me all the time, now it's time to return the favor. I hate you." Shikamaru ground out as he squinted up at the blonde who just beamed and helped his brother sit up. Yeah. Well, the bright side is that Gaara is our Gaara and is on board with our plans," Naruto said cheerfully as Shikamaru slowly ate his food. "Huh." Shikamaru chewed thoughtfully. "It's good that he won't break Lee's limbs this time around, and it's really good that he's our Kazekage again." "I think so too." Naruto beamed happily. "Now we have 3 days to relax and get our energy back before the prelims begin." "Finished. Can I go back to sleep now?" Shikamaru pushed his empty tray away from him. "Yes, you lazy Nara, you can." Naruto rolled his eyes as Shikamaru sank back into his pillows and closed his eyes. Naruto slid back into his own bed and decided to get some sleep of his own. "Do you have a decent strategy to take out Kiba this time?" Shikamaru asked the blonde as they walked towards the prelim arena. "It's a pretty basic one that won't show any of my actual skill, but it is much more dignified than last time." Naruto shuddered in remembrance and Shikamaru snickered at his expression. "You're healed enough to take out Kin, right?" "It still twinges a bit, but I can take her out easy enough, and since Tusan knows how long we have been training, I can use a more advanced jutsus from my clan." Shikamaru poked his shoulder gingerly. Naruto nodded as they joined their teams and senseis on the platform surrounding a tiled fighting arena. He scanned the remaining Genins, and somehow the rest of Kabuto's team had made it and were allowed to fight in the prelims. He tuned out the Sandame's speech about how they had to have prelim fights, and if anyone wanted to drop out they can, as the fights are one-on-one fights from here on out. He watched as a few people dropped out before the senseis took their teams aside for pep talks. "Good luck, team. I will hope for your success unless you are fighting each other, then I am not taking sides. Don't die out there," Kakashi told Team 7 with an eye smile. Sakura paled at the last remark while Sasuke HN'd. "Rousing as usual, Kashi-sensei." Naruto smirked and ducked the flick that was coming towards his head from the Jounin. The nickname brought back memories for Kakashi, memories of Minato, Kushina, Rin, and Obishio. He quickly shook his head to clear his mind as Hei-8 stepped up with a cough to start the first fight as the names flashed up on the screen above him. Sasuke Uchiha vs. Yoroi Ekoda. "Good luck, Sasuke-kun." Sakura gushed and Naruto leaned on the railing as Sasuke passed behind him to head down to fight. "Don't screw up, team," Naruto sang in an answer to the cocky smirk the other preteen had on his face. "Like I would dope." Sasuke shot back before he went to join Yoroi Ekoda to start the fight. Naruto and Shikamaru watched the fight with slight interest, just wanting to gauge where Sasuke's level was at without the curse seal interfering. Ekoda told Sasuke that he could steal Churka, and Naruto stayed silent this time around. He wanted to see how the Uchiha would get out of this without the curse seal or stealing Lee's taijutsu's move. In the end, Sasuke sent Shuriken at Ekoda as a distraction before he got in close with a low-rank Ketan Jutsu and some taijutsu moves he had learned from his training with Kakashi. He sent Ekoda into the wall behind him and it knocked him unconscious, making the Uchiha the winner. Sasuke smirked at the other Genins as he made his way back to his team. "Top that dope," Sasuke said in triumph to the blonde. "It won't be that hard," Naruto thought to himself. "I'll do my best." He replied with a sarcastic bite, but the Uchiha didn't catch it. However, from the amused look Kakashi gave him, the older man did. Next was the fight featuring Zaku, who had use of both arms, but had one in a sling for show. Zaku was going against Shino like before, and Naruto watched the fight disinterested, as he knew how it was going to end. Just as before, Shino won when he infected the wind tunnels in Zaku's arms. Disturbing but effective, a glance at Shikamaru told the blonde that the Nara was on the same wavelength. The next match was Kankuro vs. Misumi Tsurugi. Watching Kankuro wield his puppets once more felt good to watch. The blonde didn't even wince when the puppet master used one of his puppets to crush Misumi's bones. He had seen a lot worse in the war. Misumi should be glad it was only broken bones. The next one was Sakura vs. Ino. This time around they both ended up cutting their long hair off, and Naruto saw a flicker of his timeline, Sakura and the young pink-haired girl fighting below. Naruto smiled and spotted Shikamaru smiling fondly at the blonde as it ended in a draw like before. Tintin jumped down to face Temari, and Shikamaru leaned on the railing like he was using it to hold himself up, but he knew that he was watching Temari closely to see if his version of her was still in there and rememorizing her movements so he would have something to go off of during the final round. Shikamaru still couldn't help but wince at the brutal way she took out Tintin. He knew the two had become good friends during the war when Tintin inquired about Temari's giant iron fan. The next matchup was Shikamaru Nara vs. Kintsuchi. Shikamaru sighed loudly as he shoved his hands in his pockets and headed down to the arena as Kin walked down in her snakeskin patterned scarf with a devious smirk on her lips. Shikamaru looked up to see Gaara give him a stiff nod and Naruto beam at him. He also took note the Sandame, Asuma-sensei, and the others who were in the room during their debriefing were watching him closely. "Kick her ass, Shikamaru," Ino called down, pumping her fist in the air. He raised his uninjured hand lazily. "This is going to be troublesome." Shikamaru groaned and he heard Naruto snort from the stands. "Begin." Heiei coughed and stepped back out of the way as Kin pulled out a two-fist full of Senbon. "I heard you killed Kabuto," King commented as she threw her first fist of plain Senbon. "Who?" Shikamaru dodged out of the way lazily. "Don't play dumb with me. You took off his head," she screeched as she threw her other Senbon out of anger. "Sorry, I've never beheaded anyone before." Shikamaru ducked down to avoid the Senbon attack. "No matter, the guy was creepy as hell. I did hear you sustained some rather grievous injuries out there." She smirked as she disappeared in a substitution, a pile of Senbon lying where she stood. Shikamaru whirled around as she appeared behind him, stabbing a Senbon into his shoulder. He grunted at the new pain and hazily heard shouts coming from the stands. He took the attack and made a hand seal. Kagekuba Shibari, Shadow Strangle. Shikamaru grunted and a black shadow extended from his feet. It swirled around her body and landed on her neck, tightening its hold, and she started to choke for air. From the vantage points around the room, no one could see the shadow that was strangling her. They just saw the two genin locked in a close position with Kin breathing deeply. "Give up or you die," he whispered to her, eyes hard and tone flat. She looked at him with wide eyes and nodded the best she could. He pulled back the jutsu just enough for her to talk. "I yield." She rasped out and Heiei nodded, accepting her surrender. Shikamaru released his jutsu and stepped out of her range. "Your eyes. You're a killer," she muttered as she nursed her throat. Shikamaru just stared at her and pawed at the ground once with his foot before turning to head back to his team. There was a gasp from the gathered leaf ninja, and a few watched out as Kin threw poison-laced Senbon at his unguarded back. Shikamaru whirled around, arms going up in an X to block his face and chest. There was no need to guard himself as the leaf ninja present had taken their own action. Asuma was standing in front of his student with his trench knives out to protect Shikamaru, having used them to knock the poisoned Senbon to the ground. Kakashi along with Guy had latched onto Ken's arms. Kurenai had a kunai pressed against Ken's stomach. You yielded, and yet you attack him from behind. Kakashi growled. Shikamaru looked at the gathered Jonin shocked. A subtle glance up in the stands showed him that Sand was silently returning to Gaara's gourd, arms still crossed, and Naruto was putting his hands back into his pockets as he stopped making hand seals. He nodded at the two in thanks before he turned back to the scene before him. Genma was escorting Ken out of the arena, and Shikamaru let out a breath of relief. This had not happened during the previous timeline. Are you all right, Shikamaru? Asuma asked as he fell into step with his student as they headed back up to the other Leaf teams. I'm fine, thanks for the save, Sensei. Shikamaru smiled at his sensei, who returned the smile before Shikamaru's friends surrounded him. I'm fine, don't worry you guys. Shikamaru calmed down the genin around him. I'm fine, even if the Senbon had hit me I wouldn't have been too badly injured and the medical nin would be able to heal the poison before it could affect me. Oh yeah? What if it hit you in the neck or the head? Ino stomped up to him, anger all over her face, but Shikamaru could see the worry hidden in her blue orbs. Ino! Ino! He reached out and grabbed her waving hand and pressed it over his heart so she could feel it still beating, and right away all the anger disappeared from her body as she felt the steady thrum under her fingers. He had done this a lot during the war for Ino, Choji, Temari, Naruto, and he knew it soothed their frazzled nerves. I'm alive, focus on that. Shikamaru said softly. She nodded mutely and removed her hand from his chest as a medical ninja came to check on his wounds. She tissed as she removed the Senbon from his already injured shoulder and started to heal it with her green churka. What was she talking about before? About you beheading someone? Choji asked quietly. Shikamaru noted he had all the Jounin sensei's attentions. I honestly have no idea, she must have said it to throw me off balance. Shikamaru lied. She knew about your wounds through. Ino added. It's not like it was secret. Naruto and I were in the infirmary when we got into the tower. That or she must have seen my bandages. Shikamaru waved his wrist to show the stark white bandage wrapped around it and a matching one sticking out from under his gray jacket. That makes sense. Choji nodded, accepting the explanations. Shikamaru felt horrible for telling them these lies, but he couldn't let them know the truth, not yet. The next fight pairing appeared on the huge screen. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Kiba Inuzuka. Naruto walked past Team 10 and made eye contact with Shikamaru, who nodded, silently telling the blonde he was fine and to focus on the fight with Kiba. Hinata stammered out a good luck to the blonde as he passed and almost passed out when Naruto gave her a soft smile in return. Man, this is going to be a breeze. Kiba said excitedly as Shino and Hinata quietly wished him luck. Don't underestimate him, Kiba. Kurenai warned, having been there to hear the story of how Naruto and Shikamaru had fought off the snake Sannin. Come on, Akamaru, let's go win this. Kiba gave his sensei a confused look before he followed Naruto down to the fighting arena with his white Niken at his heels. Good luck, Kiba. Naruto grinned at the Inuzuka. He knew that every eye from the Leaf Village that was present during the debriefing was trained on him, and he knew he had to be smart about this fight, but not show any impressive skills. You too, Naruto. Kiba said in good sportsmanship. Begin. Heiei raised his hand. Jujin Bunshin, Beast Human Clone. Kiba shouted, as he and Akamaru took on the same human appearance, if not a bit more feral than usual. Naruto just stood there as the two ran and leapt around him in an effort to distract him. Thanks to Kurama being sealed in his body, Naruto had tamed his heightened senses and could already tell which one was Akamaru and which one was Kiba. He quickly made a hand sign and a dozen Kage Bunshins appeared and rushed at the two Kibas, fighting them off while Naruto disappeared into the floor. Moments passed as the Kage Bunshins disappeared one by one until none were left. The two Kibas stood side by side as they looked/sniffed around trying to find Naruto. They let out yells of surprise as they sank under the ground up to their necks as Naruto leapt out of the ground a few feet away. Doton, Shinju Zanshu, double suicide decapitation. Naruto grinned. The Kibas growled but one side as the other started to wiggle around with no results. I yield. One shouted and Hey-8 accepted it, announcing Naruto the winner. The blonde grinned and made a hand sign and the two Kibas were released from the jutsu and the Kiba on the right turned back into Akamaru who leapt up onto Kiba's head. Good fight Kiba, I just know that you will become one of the strongest Inuzukas out there. Yours and Akamaru's teamwork is very unique and effective. Naruto commented to the Genin. Thanks man, I guess I shouldn't have underestimated you. We'll get stronger and we'll beat you one day, right Akamaru? Kiba shook Naruto's hand and Akamaru yipped in agreement. I'll be looking forward to it Kiba, Akamaru. Naruto shook Kiba's hand and petted Akamaru as the two headed back up to their teams as the names for the next battle showed up. Hinata Hyuga vs. Niji Hyuga. I was dreading this one. Shikamaru confided to Naruto who came to stand with him instead of his team, Choji and Ino moving to accept the blonde to the area where Team 10 was standing. Me as well. Too bad we can't pump my Churka into Niji and make him our Niji. Naruto commented in a very low voice as the two headed down to fight. I believe in you Hinata. Never give up. Naruto shouted down at the blue-haired girl who blinked and looked up at the blonde shyly. Niji just HN'd and he stood stiffly, glaring at Hinata with so much hate that she visibly flinched back. This is going to be painful to watch. Shikamaru grumbled as he tightened his grip on the railing in front of him as the fight began and Niji ruthlessly attacked his cousin while verbally tearing her down. Once he disrupted the Churka flow to her arms, Naruto was ready to leap in to stop Niji from killing her as he rushed forward for the final strike, but Shikamaru's hand latched onto his elbow. I want to go down there too, but we can't blow our cover. We aren't supposed to know this is going to happen, remember the Jounins interfere. Shikamaru hissed and Naruto locked eyes with his ANBU commander before slowly nodding and relaxing knowing he was right. They watched tense as Hinata refused to give up even as she stared death down in the form of her cousin, but Hey-8 and the other Jounin senseis leapt in and stopped Niji and protecting her just like when Shikamaru was attacked by Ken. Naruto kept an eye on Hinata as she was taken out of the arena on a stretcher and Niji rejoined his team who eyed him with shock and some disgust. I'll bring our Niji back during our battle. Naruto swore to Shikamaru as the second to last match came up. Rock Lee vs. Gaara. This should be a good fight. Shikamaru commented as Lee dropped down into the fighting area as Gaara used his sand to lower him down. Show off. I don't think I've ever seen him walk normally. Shikamaru muttered to Naruto who snorted and Gaara sent the two a look like he knew what they were saying. Naruto just smiled cheekily at the Kazekage before Hey-8 began the final fight. Gaara crossed his arms and let his sand defend him as Lee attacked with his taijutsu moves. Gaara kept his eyes on Lee and frowned as he saw Guy give Lee permission to open the gates. Gaara lashed out with a fist and the sand wrapped around the Genin, stopping him from opening the gates and kept him in a ball of sand, not too much pressure as he didn't want to be the reason Lee had all his limbs broken again. Time went by and Hey-8 had no choice but to announce Gaara the winner and the Kazekage released the green-clad Genin and walked over to him. Good match Rock Lee. He said, his tone flat like usual. You are our most youthful opponent Gaara-san. I look forward to fighting against you in the future. Lee bowed to the redhead who nodded back, suppressing a smile. Me as well. Gaara turned on his heel and strode up to his siblings, smirking at Naruto and Shikamaru who sent him their own smirks in return before they turned to Lee to offer their own encouragements. I'm glad you didn't use the gates, Lee. Guy said after he came back over from talking with the standby medical ninja. If you did, then who knows the damage it could have caused if you used it against his sand. I understand, Guy-sensei. Lee snapped off a salute. I will train harder than before to make my body strong enough to use the gates and to make you proud, Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. The two did their dramatic rainbow and waterfall hug, and Naruto rubbed his neck. I forgot they did that, he commented, and Tintin snorted. They do it every day at the start and end of training. She rubbed her forehead, annoyed. Ouch. Shikamaru winced in sympathy, and she nodded in agreement to his statement. The final matchup appeared on the giant screen. Dosu Kinyuta versus Choji Akimichi. I don't like the looks of this guy. If he's anything like that Zaka guy, I'm not sure I want to fight him. Choji turned to his team, worried. His headband shows he's from the sound. He must use some sort of sound vibration, so be careful. Shikamaru theorized. More reason not to fight him. Choji waved his arms. If you go and give it your best, then I'll treat you to dinner. Asuma offered, and Choji straightened up, suddenly full of energy as he walked down to the arena. Bribery, nice. Kakashi commented to the other jounin. It works well with Choji. Usually for Shikamaru it's cloud watching or shogi, and Ino I have to come help deliver flowers for her family shop or carry her bags while she shops. Asuma admitted to the silver-haired jounin. I should try that. Kakashi muttered, glancing at his team. Sakura was still resting against the wall, and Sasuke was leaning on the same wall a few feet down from her, not looking at her even once. Naruto was standing with Shikamaru and Ino, looking worried for Choji, but shouting encouragements anyway. Shikamaru knew that even with his warning Dosu would win against Choji. He just really hoped Choji wasn't injured too badly. This timeline's Choji didn't see Dosu in action before, but much to Shikamaru's relief the match went the same way it did in his timeline. Choji gave a good effort, but Dosu used his sound waves to disrupt the water in Choji's body and ended the fight. Thus was the end of the prelims and the second part of the Chunin exam. The winners stood in front of the Sandaime as the names for the next part of the exam appeared. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Niji Hyuga. Sasuke Uchiha vs. Gaara. Shino Aburame vs. Kankuro. Shikamaru Nara vs. Temari. Dosu vs. Undetermined. Dosu looked up into the stands at his sensei, who Naruto and Shikamaru had an idea that it was actually Orochimaru in disguise. The sound ninja raised his hand, and the Hokage. Yes? He looked at the sound ninja. I withdraw, he stated, and the Hokage nodded, accepting it. Then the matches are set and will take place in 2 weeks. Good luck to you all and good job in getting this far. Sandaime said, a clear dismissal. The team's senseis grabbed onto the genins who couldn't teleport and Shushined out of the tower and the forest of death. All the Konoha teams appeared where they had all gathered before the 5 days, and many families and friends were waiting for the returning genins. Yoshino and Shikaku swept up Naruto and Shikamaru into tight, worried hugs when they were spotted. We're proud of you too. Shikaku smiled at the two, his eyes taking in Shikamaru's injuries. Thanks, Two-san, they said in sync. You have a month to train. You are coming home and you are staying there until I say you two are recovered, understood? Yoshino said sternly. Yes, ma'am. The two gulped as Yoshino shot her husband a glare, and the elder Nara quickly touched his wife's shoulder, and in a swirl of leaves the group disappeared, leaving 2 very amused jounins and 1 smirking Kazekage in their wake. The upside of being stuck in the Nara compound for 2 days was that the two managed to plan a lot things out in detail, including what Naruto was going to do when Jiraiya arrived. Are you going to be all right when Jiraiya shows up? Shikamaru asked Naruto as the two played an intense game of shogi in Shikamaru's room. If I can manage seeing everyone else, I think I'll be able to manage Ero Sennin. Naruto smiled fondly at the thought of seeing his godfather alive once again. Try not to show him that you know more than he does about the Rasengan. Shikamaru reminded his Hokage, glancing up from the game. I'll also try my best to look unimpressed when I summon a tadpole. Naruto deadpanned and Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Knowing you, you would accidentally summon the Nide Zingama, two great sage toads. Shikamaru joked, but fell sober when Naruto nodded at the very real possibility. I'm thinking of letting Erosenin and Gigi know that I know who my Tusan is. Naruto made a move against the Nara. Might as well, it would set you up to learn the Rasengan, and I know you want to learn more about him and your Kaasan, so this is an amazing chance to do so. Shikamaru agreed and Naruto smiled happily. I'm sure Tusan will have heard about our performance in the exam so far and will be tracking you down for a game soon to try to get a red on us again. Naruto said cautiously. Looking forward to it. Shikamaru smirked. What are you going to do, Shika? Naruto snickered at the glint the Nara had in his eyes. Throw him off our trail, but hint at what is to come. Shikamaru said innocently as he beat Naruto. The blonde fell backwards with a groan. So Tusan has no clue what is going to hit him. Naruto stated from his place on the floor. Are you going to the forest while I'm with Gigi and Erosenin? If I can avoid Tusan long enough, yeah, I think it would be better to do so. I'm also going to set up the trap for when I run into that bastard hiding again. Shikamaru's face turned dark. I'm not letting Asuma die this time around. That's why we are here. No one is dying on our watch. Naruto said seriously as he rocked back up into a sitting position, his legs crossed. Hi. Shikamaru said out of reflex as Naruto's voice had changed to his Kage tone. Baki should be overheard talking about the invasion with an Odo ninja tomorrow, so today we can focus on other things today, because things are going to get real tomorrow. Shikamaru murmured as he reset the shogi board, and the two fell silent, just in time as Shikaku knocked on the door with an ANBU in tow. Naruto-san, Hokage-sama wishes you to come to the tower with me. The ANBU ordered, and Naruto gave a stiff nod as he stood up. I will be there soon. I need to get changed, so you are dismissed. Naruto ordered back as he passed by Shikaku and the ANBU, who blinked at the tone of voice, but disappeared in a swirl of leaves nonetheless. Shikaku raised an eyebrow at his son. The young Nara just gestured to the shogi board. I was informed of what happened in the Forest of Death and the prelim fights. Shikaku said causally as the two started their game. Oh? Shikamaru made a move. Both of you took on a Sannin on your own and came out alive. Shikamaru could hear the pride, worry, and confusion laced in his father's voice. Basically. Shikamaru nodded. I also heard you almost died because the sword that stabbed you in the shoulder turned into a snake and poisoned you. Shikaku went on to say slowly. Almost. Good thing NAR is a fast runner. Shikamaru said absently, hand rubbing his newest shoulder wound. I know there is something that you are not telling me, Shika-chan. Shikaku stated as he crossed his arms in his large sleeves. What is your theory, Tusan? Shikamaru tilted his head to the side, resting his chin on his left hand. It's incomplete as of yet. Shikaku said easily. Let me know when it is complete. Shikamaru nodded and was about to make another amateur move when his father gripped Shikamaru's wrist. Shikamaru's body tensed and eyes darted up to look at his father. Shikaku dropped his son's wrist in shock at the danger, wariness, sadness, and age that he could pick out in Shikamaru's eyes. He took a breath to compose himself before he placed his hand back into his sleeve. You are not playing to your full potential, Shika-chan. We both know the move you are about to make is amateur at best and will cost you the game. Shikaku said calmly. Let me know when your theory is complete. Shikamaru repeated as he changed his move, knowing that in one more move from any angle he would win. The young Nara stood up, bowed his head to his father before he left his room. Shikaku stared at the board and realized that his son had outplayed him completely, all while protecting the king absolutely. What happened to you, Shikamaru? Shikaku muttered to himself as he cleared off the board. / Naruto leapt roof to roof easily as he made his way to Hokage Tower. His heart was pounding hard in his chest. He was going to see Ero Sennin again. This time he was being properly introduced, and he wouldn't have to force the Sannin to train him. He would have his godfather back, and the blonde Uzumaki Namikaze couldn't wait as he unconsciously picked up his speed. Naruto easily scaled the tower by putting his churka into his feet, and he slid open the window in the Hokage's office, making sure to flare his churka so he wouldn't be attacked. I do have a door for a reason, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen said fondly, blinking at the lack of bright orange. Why would I use the door when I could enter through the window? Naruto tilted his head confused as he landed on the floor of the office and dusted off the black pants he stole from Shikamaru. What's so important you had to interrupt my day off, Gigi? I was planning on beating Shika in the next game. Naruto asked, trying his best not to sound excited as he had come up with a new strategy. Naruto-kun, I want you meet someone. The Sandaime smiled as the door opened, and in the flesh, alive and white-haired as ever, walked Jiraiya. Naruto had to use all his training and willpower not to rush over to his godfather and hug him tightly before kicking ass all the way to Suna. He kept his face curious as the two gave the other a once-over. This is my former student Jiraiya, the Toad Sannin. The Sandaime smiled. Jiraiya? Wait a second. You're the one who writes those pervy books that Kakashi-sensei reads all the time. Naruto shouted, pointing a finger dramatically at the white-haired Sannin. You're an Ero Sennin. Jiraiya's eyebrow twitched as Hiruzen snickered at the name, and Naruto just smirked. Why did you want me to meet Ero Sennin? Naruto asked the third, acting confused. Jiraiya is a seal master, and I called him to make sure your seal containing the Kyuubi is intact. The Sandaime laced his fingers together. A seal master? Naruto looked wide-eyed at Jiraiya. That's right, brat. Jiraiya puffed out his chest in pride. I'm one of the best in the world and have taught the others, like the one who placed that seal on your stomach. You taught the Yondaime? Naruto asked, eyes wide in fake excitement. Do you think I look like him? I think I look like him. Naruto was very amused at the confused look that crossed Jiraiya's eyes and the shifting from the Sandaime. Don't let him see the seal. Remember, physical changes like scars, tattoos, and seals came back with you. Kurama hissed inside Naruto's head. Ah, I remember now. Thanks for the reminder. How is your family reunion going? Naruto mentally nodded. Don't even start. I've got a massive headache, and here I thought you were annoying. Kurama whined. I'm not looking so bad, am I now, Fuzzy? Naruto mentally laughed before he turned his attention back to his godfather. Tell you what, kid, why don't you let me check your seal and we'll talk? Jiraiya offered after Naruto crossed his arms and gave the white-haired man an unimpressed look. I don't think so, Ero Sennin. Like hell I'm taking off my shirt for you. Naruto refused. Can't you feel my churka or something like that? Fine, you little brat, flare your churka for me. Can you do that? Jiraiya asked with an annoyed look on his face that Naruto had seen many times. Yes, I can do that, Ero Sennin. Naruto snarked and he flared his churka. It rose up to a high level and covered the whole room. Naruto smirked a bit as he spotted the hidden ANBU shift slightly at the increase of churka. Naruto's smirk increased a bit as he recognized the churka as Tenzo/Yamato Taicho. Good to know he was out of Root and Orochimaru's clutches. Naruto, your churka is unlike any I've ever come across. Jiraiya said, his voice low and full of awe. However, I do not sense any remaining churka that is leaking from the seal. I would have to say the seal is intact and doing fine. Cool, so what are we going to talk about? Naruto bounced on his heels, pulling back in his churka. Before that, Naruto-kun, I have something I need to tell you about Jiraiya. Hiruzen cut in and the white-haired Sannin nodded. What is it? Naruto asked, feigning confusion. Naruto. I'm your godfather. Jiraiya deadpanned. Naruto forced himself to freeze and glance at the third for confirmation, and Hiruzen nodded. Huh. Naruto said slowly before he flew across the room and punched Jiraiya across the face, all his anger at his version of Jiraiya for going off on his own and dying and not for telling him that he was his godfather was released with that punch. You left me alone. Naruto hissed, his words having a double meaning, however only he knew the second meaning. I know. You don't know how much I regret letting the elders talk me into leaving the village. I should have stayed, I should have taken you with me, I should have done something. Jiraiya sat on the ground where he fell from the force of the punch. That strength you've got there is impressive. Have you been training under Tsunade? Jiraiya gently rubbed his cheek as he stood up. Who? Naruto feigned confusion yet again. You didn't tell me Tsunade left as well. Jiraiya froze up before he rounded on his old sensei. If I had known that, I would have come back right away. I thought Naruto was being cared for by her. After all, she is his last remaining family member. I have a family member? Naruto tilted his head to the side. This was kind of new information. Yes, he called her Bachan, but he had no idea if they were related or not. Yes, you do. I'm truly sorry, Naruto. Jiraiya let his head drop. Will you explain this to me? Naruto questioned. After the exams are over, we will find her and she can explain herself to both of us. Jiraiya swore and Naruto nodded his head before he was flying across the room, and he threw his arms tightly around his godfather's middle and buried his head in Jiraiya's chest. Naruto shakily inhaled his familiar scent as Jiraiya wrapped his arms around his godson tightly. I'm here now, Naruto. I'll tell you everything I can, and I'll be here to help you from now on. Jiraiya swore as he stroked the blonde hair. I'm holding you to that, no matter what. If you need to leave for a mission or anything, at least come say goodbye. Naruto ordered, his voice wavering. Jiraiya picked up on the emotions behind those words and nodded his head in a promise. Good. Now let's go for some ramen, and you can tell me about my Tusan and how he was before he became the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto grinned cheekily as he leapt up to the windowsill. He laughed at the shocked looks on Jiraiya and the Sandaime's faces. Meet you at Ichiraku's. Naruto waved his hand before he dropped out of sight and made his way to Ichiraku's, cackling the whole way. // Hey there, Naruto. It's been a while. Tucci greeted his favorite customer with a large grin and quickly started making a bowl of Naruto's favorite ramen. Hiya, Tucci Gigi. Sorry, I've been really busy with the Chunin exams and everything. Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly as he sensed Jiraiya approaching the restaurant. What the hell was that, Naruto? Jiraiya questioned. Naruto turned his head as he slurped a large amount of ramen. Jiraiya stared at the blonde, flashing back to how Kushina used to eat ramen just like that in this exact spot with Minato by her side. What the hell was what Erosenin? Naruto asked innocently as he finished his bowl, and Tucci set down another one, interested in why Jiraiya of the Sannin was talking with his favorite customer. You can't just drop a bombshell like that on us and then jump out a window. Jiraiya huffed as he slid onto a stool by the blonde, ordering his own bowl. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you have to be pretty stupid not to see the resemblance, and then I did some research with Shikamaru's, and since Shika's a Nara, it was easy to come to the correct conclusion. Naruto said seriously as he started on his second bowl of ramen. Huh, you're full of surprises, aren't you, kid? Jiraiya pondered over the words as the two ate. You have no idea. Naruto said cheerfully as the two ate their amazing ramen, while Tucci looked on with a small smile as he remembered Jiraiya taking another blonde to his stand for ramen after training. It looks like history was repeating itself. Come on, kid, time for that talk I promised you, Jiraiya said as the two paid for their ramen, his heart swelling at the sight of the green frog wallet the blonde had used to pay before regret hit him hard for not being able to give to him in person. Sweet. Naruto grinned. He knew this was going to be a repeat of some information, but this time around it felt different. The blonde walked beside his godfather, ignoring all the glares and whispers. However, Jiraiya did not do so. He felt his fists clenched together tighter at every word or glare sent in his godson's direction. The duo arrived in the same training ground they used the last time, but the circumstances were very different, and for that Naruto was thankful. He was really hoping he wouldn't be chucked off a cliff this time around. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. Kurama chuckled lowly in Naruto's mind. Remember, Fuzzy, that if I go, you go with me. Naruto shot back and the Kyuubi huffed before falling silent as Jiraiya turned to look down at the blonde. First off, those glares people had on when we walked by, how long? Jiraiya didn't want to finish the sentence. Ever since I was born, but I've grown used to it and I simply don't care anymore. Naruto said honestly. It is not right, they have no idea. Jiraiya gritted his teeth. You're right, they have no idea, and it better to keep it that way for their own safety. Naruto insisted, and Jiraiya shook his head. That is something your Tusan would have said. Jiraiya stated fondly with a smile on his lips. Speaking of, how did you know who your Tusan is? I have the smartest Nara in the Genius clan for a best friend, figure it out. Naruto said cheekily. I want to know about Tusan as a person and his skills. I can tell you all about him, kiddo, I promise, but don't you have to train for something important? Jiraiya ruffled the blonde spiky hair. Oh right. I have to fight Niji Hyuga. Naruto wrinkled his nose. He really rather not fight one of his best friends, but this version of Niji needed a swift kick in the ass and to be shaken out of his destiny shape of mind. It will be extremely troublesome, but looks like I have to outlogic him. You sound like a Nara. Let me give you something before you start training for the fight. Jiraiya chuckled before he pulled the giant scroll off his back and rolled it out in front of the two. This is a summoning contract, Naruto. It is a contract for toads, and I want you to sign your name. It makes sense that you are the next one to make a contract with them after all. Naruto fell to his knees and stared at the scroll, praying that his name wasn't there, and thankfully it was not. He smiled softly as he easily traced his father's name before he pulled out a kunai and swiftly sliced his skin open. Right here, under my Tusan's name? Naruto asked, voice shaky as he stared at Minato's name. That's right. Jiraiya blinked at how easily Naruto had sliced open his hand. He watched as Naruto signed his name in blood and stared at the name as it sunk into the contract. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. It is my name after all. Naruto smirked, noticing the Sannin was staring as his hand healed up thanks to Kurama. All right then. Do you know how summonings work? Jiraiya asked, tearing his eyes away from the scroll. I cut my thumb, make the correct hand seals, and slam my hand on a surface while saying Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu, right? Naruto rocked on his heels. Right, why don't you give it a shot? Don't be too disappointed if you can only summon a tadpole at first. Jiraiya prepared the blonde so he was not disappointed or frustrated. Here I go, Erosenin. Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu. Naruto made the needed hand seals, bit his thumb with practiced ease, and slammed his right hand onto the ground as seals spread out from his palm and a huge puff of smoke appeared. Jiraiya watched in shock and awe as the smoke cleared. Gamabunta, one of the chief toads, appeared, and Naruto was sitting cross-legged on the toad's head. You would summon Gamabunta on the first try, Naruto? Jiraiya said, amazed. Brat, get off my head. Gamabunta said, his tone rough, but the undertone was one of fondness. Why? I can see everything from up here. How did I do, Erosenin? Naruto waved his arms down at his godfather. Jiraiya, I'll be damned. Good to see ya. Gamabunta grunted, a smile appearing behind his pipe. Naruto, you just summoned one of the chief toads on your first try. Jiraiya shouted up to the blonde. Nice to meet you, Chief Toad, sir. Naruto smiled knowingly at Gamabunta, who grunted in response. So you're Namake's offspring, huh? Tell you what, brat, if you can survive the rest of my day on my head, I'll accept you. Gamabunta told the blonde. The silent for old time's sake was heard between the two. When I do it, you better call me boss. Naruto laughed loudly before he adjusted his position so he could cling to Gamabunta. That'll be the day. See ya at sundown, Jiraiya. Gamabunta puffed his pipe before he leapt up into the air, Naruto whooping in excitement as he and the toad disappeared, leaving Jiraiya standing alone below. // So you mind explaining what is going on, brat? Gamabunta questioned the blonde, who was easily sitting on his head as the giant toad leapt around the outlying forest, not to frighten the people in the village. Naruto sighed and told the Toad Chief the whole story. That makes sense. Some of our kin that died in the war suddenly came back to life. We knew you had something to do with it. Anything weird that happens is always related back to you. Gamabunta shook his head in a fond manner before he spotted the sun setting and Naruto still on his head. We better get you back to Jiraiya before he comes tearing up the place looking for you. Try to keep him alive this time, yeah? I plan on doing my best. Naruto promised solemnly. Did you know I can't harness my Sage Mode while I'm 12? It's a real buzzkill. Mention it to Jiraiya, will you, so when I hit 16 I'll have a good excuse to be able to use it. Will do. Gamabunta grunted as he landed in the training ground where Jiraiya was resting under a large tree. Brat managed to stay on my head all day. I think he has the making for another sage. When he's old enough he'll be reversed summoned to start training. Gamabunta admitted to the white-haired Sannin. Really? Jiraiya's eyebrows rose up as he craned his head backwards to look at Naruto, who had curled up on the toad's head and was breathing evenly as he fell asleep. Really? Now make sure the brat gets home safe and stay close to your Hokage tomorrow. I have a feeling something is going to happen and you will be needed. Gamabunta ordered and waited as Jiraiya leapt up onto his head as well and gently slipped his arms around the sleeping blonde before dropping back to the ground. Thank you, Gamabunta. Tell the others I say hello. I planned on staying to see Naruto's fight anyways. Jiraiya inclined his head and the Toad Chief nodded before he disappeared in a puff of smoke. You're an odd one, Naruto, but looking at who your family is, you fit right in. Jiraiya said, fondness creeping into his tone as he headed back towards the village and the place he was staying whilst in the leaf. / And done. Shikamaru stepped back and smiled happily at the finished result of his hidden trap. It was exactly the same one that trapped him in the future, but he was hoping he would get to the immortal man before he could come across Asuma. That was easier the second time around. Shikamaru brushed off his pants as he petted a deer that had been watching over him whilst he worked. Want to come to the shrine with me? Shikamaru asked the deer. The animal tossed its head before walking off in the direction of the abandoned shrine belonging to his clan, long forgotten until now. He and the deer strolled deeper into the forest than the rest of the clan had ever ventured, not even his Tusan. He spotted the small, wooden, ancient shrine that was overgrown with weeds, flowers, and vines. Thanks for the company. Shikamaru fed the deer a carrot from his pocket and watched as the deer disappeared into the dense forest. Shikamaru gingerly walked up the broken old stairs, and he walked into the main area of the shrine with purpose. He knew what he was doing this time around, causing him to head straight for the hiding spot that took a while to find last time. He put some effort into it for once and pushed open the lid of the dust-coated wooden box that held the item he was looking for. Prefect. Shikamaru blew the dust off the summoning contract scroll. I hope they remember me. It would be troublesome if I had to go through all that proving myself stuff again. He unrolled the scroll across the ground by his feet and glanced over the names of the ancient Naras who had signed the scroll before he had, while noticing his name was not there. Pulling out a kunai, Shikamaru sliced his palm open and quickly signed his name on the next blank space. He rolled up the scroll before he put it back in its proper place, knowing it would be safe there, and headed back out of the shrine. Here goes nothing, Kuchios no Jetsu, summoning Jetsu. Shikamaru slammed his palm against the grass and watched as black seals spread out and a column of smoke appeared a few feet in front of him. Shikamaru Nara, it has been a long time since I've seen you. A female voice called out cheerfully as the smoke cleared, showing a 10-foot-tall white-tailed doe curled up on its side wearing a tight-fitting white robe smiled down at the small Genin. Did you shrink since the last time we met? Hello Kosetsu, Snowfall, it is nice to see you too. Actually, I haven't shrunk, try going back in time. Shikamaru smiled up at the chief female of the Shido Shika Ikazoku, Shade Deer clan, that the Naras had a summoning contract with, but over time and the lack of wars it had been buried away. Ah, that makes loads more sense than you having shrunk. Kosetsu laughed. She was always a cheerful one, but if you were an enemy then you would be haunted by her laugh afterwards. My darling Shiro, White, suddenly reappeared, so we theorized that you and your blonde Hokage had something to do with that. Good conclusion, Kosetsu. Shikamaru smiled. I wish to hold the contract in this timeline as well. I don't have to prove my worth again, do I? Shikamaru asked, dreading the answer as the doe inspected him. Nah, not this time. Once was enough if you ask me. Kosetsu smiled before she dropped her head onto her hoofs and blinked at him. Shikamaru smiled at the familiar sight and sat beside her nose and stroked her fur. She made a noise of approval. Thank you, it would be beyond troublesome. Shikamaru admitted. Agreed. Now before I give you back what belongs to your clan, I want to take a nap. Kosetsu yawned. Not for too long, okay? I don't want my Tusan coming to look for me and find you here. Shikamaru told the giant battle doe. Ah, keeping us a secret, are we? It's like an affair. Kosetsu laughed before she lifted a front leg and a small ball of darkness appeared and floated down to Shikamaru's feet. The darkness receded and laying in its wake was a beautifully crafted katana, looking like it was made out of shadows itself. Kage no Eji, Shadow's Edge. Shikamaru sighed out happily as he picked up the familiar katana and drew the blade swiftly. If you looked hard enough, you could see the obsidian blade moving as if it was made out of shadows. Shikamaru smiled as he made a few swings and he fell back into his kenjutsu stance, and with Kosetsu watching him happily he practiced his stances and getting his Genin body used to the weight of the katana. Looking good, Tsukashi Shika, little dear. Kosetsu commented as Shikamaru finished his practice and slid the katana back into its pitch-black sheath. With a sigh he pulled out an empty scroll and sealed the beautiful katana into it before placing it back in his pack. I should let you get back to Shiro. Shikamaru smirked at the battle doe that blew out air from her nose as the sun had lowered down past the treetops, throwing shadows everywhere as if in a dance. I suppose so. I will see you soon, Tsukashi Shika. Kosetsu inclined her head. Shikamaru smiled before the giant doe disappeared in another puff of smoke. Shikamaru took a few calming breaths before he headed out of the forest and back towards his family's compound. He had a feeling that Naruto wasn't coming back tonight. He should tell his parents that so they did not have to worry. No, the worrying will come tomorrow with the Chunin exam's final round. Let the invasion begin. Shikamaru muttered to himself, fingering the scroll that had his katana sealed into.